Well, hello again and welcome. Today we're going to try something a little bit different. I'm going to try to recreate a flight I did back in 1969. On that particular Sunday morning, I had a National Guard meeting in Ponce in the southern part of the island. And I had planned originally to get up very early and drive the 2 hours it takes to get there. But I overslept, and at 7:20 in the morning, I was sitting at my house in San Juan trying to figure out how in the world I was going to get to Ponce by 8 o'clock, something that seemed impossible. It occurred to me to call my uncle, who was in town and had his Cessna 310, and agreed to lend it to me for the morning. And so I got in the car, raced over to where he was staying, parked the car, went up the elevator 13 stories, got the key, came down the elevator, got the car, drove to the airport, untied the airplane, did a 2-minute pre-flight, and eventually did the flight up to Ponce, caught a cab on the other side, and just barely got in there at 8 o'clock as people were forming up for roll call. And I remember when I took off and again when I landed, looking at my watch. I had one of those big digital watches that everybody had back then. And I was amused by noticing that I had done the trip wheels up to wheels down in less than 12 minutes. I forget exactly if it was 11:45 or 11:50, whatever, but it was definitely less than 12 minutes. And so I didn't think much of it at that point other than being an amusing story until I got the simulator. And I tried to recreate the trip in the simulator on several occasions with different airplanes, and I've never been able to match the 12-minute time again. Seems incredible, but I just haven't been able to do it. And so today we're going to try that. We're going to fly all the way down from Isla Grande to the VOR, aiming for the VOR at Ponce, and then the short distance that goes to the airport there. It's only 40 miles. It doesn't seem like terribly complicated. The one complication, obviously, is the mountains. If you look at the profile view in ForeFlight, you can see that in this line, the highest point is right around 3,000 feet, 2,950 feet. And so the trick is, how do you maintain your speed as quickly as possible? How do you get there as quickly as you can, but still get up those 3,000 feet over the mountains? And so that's what we're going to try to see if we can figure out today. I've set up a little stopwatch over here, and we're going to start it as soon as we lift off the wheels, and we're going to stop it when we get there, and we'll see how we do. Obviously, I don't know what the outcome is, but hopefully I'm going to do my best to try to get there, and I'll talk you through the things that I'm doing. It was before 8 o'clock in the morning. The tower was not operating. There was no traffic in the pattern, so I was pretty much able to do what I wanted. I chose not to use flaps because I was trying to build up speed as quickly as possible. Normally, the departure for Ponce was to go straight out and then do a left overhead departure and on course. And normally I didn't want to make the pattern any wider than I had to, so I did a pretty tight pattern because there was no traffic. It didn't seem to be a problem. So let's go ahead and give it a shot and see how well we can do today. Hope you enjoy it. No flaps, but I got booster pumps, I got lights, and here we go. Speed is building, 60 knots. Knots. And here we go, wheels are off, clock is ticking, gear coming up. Coming out over the yacht club here. And as I recall, I didn't do the full left overhead departure. I pretty much pulled it back and tried to get around as quickly as possible to get on course and not make the trip any longer than it had to be. There's the airport straight ahead. I'm looking for about 230 degrees. I went ahead and set up the climb power. And right now we're at 800 feet, and I remember going as low as I could go just so my speed would build up as quickly as possible. Let's go ahead and turn these things off. This, on the left, the outer marker for runway 8 at International on the ILS is about 3 miles to the left, and we're at 900 feet. And our airplanes will be coming, altitude at the outer marker is 1,600 feet, so we're well below the final approach course, and that's not a problem. But you can see ahead already the mountains are going to be the issue. How quickly can we build up to speed without, while at the same time getting over the mountains? And so I'm going to go ahead. As I remember, I never really brought the manifold pressure back from climb setting, as I recall, but I did bring the props back to 2,500. Granted, that was a 310. 310, the climb was 25, and 23 for cruise, and I left it at 25 inches and 2,300 RPM. And so this is the Duke. The Duke is not as maneuverable as the 310, but it certainly is every bit as fast. So I'm going to leave it at my climb setting of 35 inches, but my cruise setting of 2,500 RPM. And let's see where that goes. We're 1,100 feet right now, coming up on 200 knots. Lamps are up, pumps are up. Just trying to get there as quickly as possible. Coming up on 3 minutes on the time. Less than 9 minutes to go. Again, this was back in 1969, no such thing as GPS, so I had to fly to the VOR, which is not too far from the airport, but it was displaced from the airport. But I couldn't dial up a direct course with GPS like we can today. As I was coming up on the mountains, I was concerned mostly about two things. Number one is about waking people up. This was about less than before 8 o'clock on a Sunday morning. I didn't think I would get in trouble. It was a long time ago, and these were pretty sparsely populated along the mountains. But obviously, there's people there, and I didn't want to disturb people anymore, and I had to. And secondly, more importantly, there's cables strung from mountain to mountain very often out here, and you have to be very careful. I talked to a person once who had hit a cable and lived to tell about it, but I certainly didn't want to go through that experience. So I was as close as I went to the mountains, and I went very, very close on a couple of occasions. I wanted to make sure I stayed safe, above all. Four and a half minutes. Time builds up in a hurry. I'm only at 1,300 feet, and you can already see much as I want to keep my speed, I'm going to have to pull back just to get over these little hills here. I didn't think I was doing the engines any harm. I flew the airplane many, many times after that, and everything was always in the green. Never had a problem with the engines after that, so I didn't think I was stressing them beyond what they were supposed to. Was pushing them a little hard, obviously, but not anything that I felt was unsafe back then. Coming up on 1,900 feet. There's a communications tower just right there, so I'm going to aim a little left and try to get past it without having to climb over it. I think I was even closer than this in some of the mountains, as I recall. Again, nothing. I was patently, obviously, unsafe, but I was pushing it pretty hard. 2,200. Well, now you can see what the problem is. I can try to deviate to the left, but then I'm making the trip longer. But if I stay in this course, I'm gonna have to lose some speed climbing up to altitude. So maybe I'll do better on the right side here. Excuse me. I wasn't looking at the airspeed indicator very much when I was doing that. I was paying attention to what was going on outside, obviously. So I can't tell you what speeds I was indicating, or my concern was getting there as quickly as I could. And I guess I got there quicker than I realized back then. 2,500 in a little over 7 minutes. Means we have 4.5 minutes to go. Once we get over the higher mountains here, then we can start downhill, so to speak. It will continue to push it pretty well downhill. This sounds like might look like a video game here, but this is not too unlike what I was doing in real life back then. Well, I think this last little bit here, coming up on 2,800, might be the highest of the obstacles I have to overcome. Coming up on 8 minutes now. You can see the ocean on the left side over here already. So hopefully as soon as we get over this, we can start coming down. No towers over here, so it should be okay. Okay, and here we go. Let's start pushing it down now. Remember the airspeed building here, it never even touched the throttle right until the end. And obviously, runway, if you remember from Ponce, is runway 12 is the normal runway that you land in, but I landed on 30. Again, it was early in the morning on a Sunday, and there was nobody on the pattern. There was no control tower. And I carried a lot of speed until just about a mile final, and it chopped everything down, lowered the flaps in the gear, and went in and landed. So 9 minutes. Less than 3 minutes to go. Just can't understand how I did that. The only thing I can imagine is that even though it was early in the morning, there might have been a little tailwind, which I'm not accounting for in the simulator. And whatever wind there would have been, even if it's only 8 or 10 knots at 2,500 feet or thereabouts, would have been a tailwind because of the prevailing winds in this area. That's really the only thing I can imagine. Coming up on 10 minutes, and I can see the airport, but behind that final little hill there, but I don't think it's going to work out. I'm indicating 215 knots, which would have been a lot for a 310, but would not have been the first time I had driven it that hard. See the airport about 12:30 there. 10:45, a little over a minute, and we're more than a minute away, so I don't think it's going to work again this time. (12:30) is the airport now. 11 minutes. And I have to tell you, as difficult as it's been to duplicate that time, I have gone through the timetable of what happened when I left home, how long it took me in the car, how long it took me in the elevator, how long it took me to go out, and how long it took me in the cab. And I went through that whole timeline, and I only have about a 12-minute window. So I think my timing was pretty accurate. See the approach lights there, the VASI lights? 10 seconds to go. We're going to miss it again. How about that? Again, going very fast, 210 knots indicated, only about a mile and a half from the airport. And we're going to slow it down in a hurry here. Flaps, gear, pumps, and the props. I don't think I used full flaps because I didn't want to slow it down anymore, and I have to. And it's about a 5,000-foot runway and 4,500-foot runway, and there was nobody there, so. Yes, on the carriage mixer props. And here we go. $13.12. About a minute 15 more than I did that morning. How about that? Again, maybe I'll try again. I won't bore you again if I can't make it. But I think I'm going to try again in a future flight with a different airplane. Review the route a little bit more. Maybe be a little more aggressive over the mountains, a little closer than I flew today. And maybe try to factor in a little bit of tailwind in there. And if I don't beat the 12-minute time, I won't go ahead and publish the video, but if I do, I'll put it up there. Or better still, maybe you can take this as a challenge to try to do it yourself. Isla Grande to Ponce in 12 minutes or less. If you do, or if you are able to do it, let me know, and I'd be happy to see it. In any event, I hope you enjoyed it. It was a short one, but trying to recreate something I did all those years ago. And I have another flight coming up to Vieques, which again was a charter I did about the same time, maybe a little bit before that. So stick around for that, and I think you'll enjoy it. Thanks again for watching. I'll talk to you later. Bye-bye.